Guys, if you're not going to, just be a bit louder, I'm just going to ask all of you just to go back and try to get some coffee from Ed now. So let's try to find a balance here. So welcome everybody to WOLF Summit. And at the same time, I would like to welcome our speakers. In the beginning of that, I also would like to say that let's just say, I'm very impressed. I'm with WOLF Summit for a very long time. And I would say this is one of the best stages and the setup that I see. And one thing I have to tell you guys is most of us just came from somewhere to Wrocław and we are ready. But there are lots of, let's just call them a staff and organizers that they really work for the past few days just to make all of these things. So because we're also the first part to start, so if you don't mind, let's just have a round of applause for the organizers before we do something here, please. Good. I have to do something to see a bit more energy here. And at the same time, I don't want to make too much of the time from our very good speakers. We're going to talk about something that is going to be very much relatable to everybody, aside if you guys don't live in a city and you live, I don't know where else you can live. We're going to talk about two things. First of all, what is a smart city and exactly all the aspects of the life of a smart city for your everyday life. But in order to do that, first we have to know our speakers a bit better. So if you don't mind, Evangelos, I'm going to start from your side and then introduce yourself. And then after that, we will start the conversation. You have a... No?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Evangelos Mitsakis. I am the CEO of Deep Traffic. It's a recently established spin-off company of the National Center for Research and Technology in Greece. And even more recently, about 2 months ago, we also started a branch, so a parent company here in Wrocław, and we're very excited for that. What we do is that we work in the traffic management sector, and we are providing a technology for road traffic management, focusing on connected and automated vehicles.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Heinecke. I'm the founder and CEO of Breeze Technologies. We are a German deep tech company working in air quality. So we work with cities and other entities to monitor, manage, and improve air quality. We do that nowadays in 11 countries, everywhere from the US to here in Europe to Japan. Besides doing that, I'm also an advisor to the French NGO Urban AI, where we think about AI applications in the urban interface, and a EU climate champion.
Yeah, good morning, guys. My name is Alexander Romanishin. I am partner of ISE Corporate Accelerator and VC firm. It's a leading Ukrainian accelerator which works with scale-up startups and help to find corporate partners and government partners as well. And we help them to raise new fund and to scale up, actually. And from other side, I'm also represent government side because, as many of you know, the turbulent situation in Ukraine and the war in Ukraine. And as I'm former Deputy Minister of Economy, I help a lot to rebuild Ukraine right now. And cities are our target, and we have many things to do right now to rebuild and recover. And I will tell more about and share my view on that, and we'll be happy to hear the expert opinion as well, how we can create great, smart, and wise city in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Talking with speakers that are so experts and knowing what they do, I usually won't say it's a walk in the park, but this one is going to be a smart park. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of dad jokes also in the middle, so just embrace yourself. We have a lot of jargon, especially, Robert, you mentioned about the AI. It's one of those words that I'm really worried to even mention it. Like, I studied AI, and like when people say, like, this is a very smart, like, light. And I was like, what does it do? And it was like, it only changes every 30 seconds. And I was like, wow, that's very smart. So let's just try to first have a proper understanding of what smart cities really are, in your opinion, because I think it's pretty much opinionated. Everybody have a different understanding of that. And then we can try to basically be a little bit more deeper into the topic. So again, from the beginning.
What are smart cities?
Yeah, what is your definition? What makes a city a smart city?
I think it's threefold. First one is the obvious one, obvious at least for some of us, the technologies. This needs to exist and be in place and be utilized effectively. The second aspect, in my mind, for smart cities is the administration. So the city as an authority, which needs to be able to understand, to adapt, to procure and to utilize those technologies effectively. And the last one, and I think it's the most important one, are the people. They need to be able to use and to find useful those services and whatever the smart city services might include. There is a wide range of such services and technologies, but people need to really easily understand that something is improving. Otherwise, it's really not smart, or it is smart for the professionals like us, but it needs also to be useful for the people.
So what I hear is that a lot of people factor, right? So administration, people, and then the second is that a smart city always still have to be in the path of improvement. Okay, that's very refreshing. Robert?
You know, as you already said, there's so many different definitions for smart cities out there. But the kind of synopsis, what I found in my conversations with municipal officials, but also with NGOs and other civil entities, the smart cities that really are smart, also for me personally, are the ones that use processes, that use technologies, and particularly that use data to increase the quality of life for their citizens. And you don't need to deploy every smart city technology that is out there. You actually don't need to deploy any technology at all. For me, a smart city is one that actually looks at what is happening out there compared to designing their new development plans, for instance, in an ivory tower, and actually uses insights and data from the urban environment to make decisions about how to be more sustainable, how to be more efficient, how to be more effective in providing their services to their citizens.
So a bit more on the data side. You know, one funny thing that is happening right now is that I'm not sure if right now we have to talk about EdTech or smart city, because a lot of things that we're talking is about educating people and administrator. And I'm not sure how much of that is going to be touched, but now I'm just going to be another time shocked and try to have your definition.
Yeah, definitely to add something smart to the smart guys after this comment. So I would like just to make kind of accent on engagement. Yeah, so to be smart, it means that you need to engage all stakeholders which live in your area, in your region, in your city specifically. And through this engagement, to resolve the current challenges and the future challenges. So is your infrastructure, your people, your skills of people can face these challenges, it means that the city is smart. And so you can estimate smart or not based how the people who live in the city resolve the challenges. If they can resolve the challenges and they are happy to live there, it means they're smart. If it's fully AI, electricity, zero carbon emissions, but people not live here and they can't resolve the current or future challenges, so it's not smart enough. It's my view.
So you put it from like a brain drain aspect of that how much of the people that they are supposed to be that they...
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. So I'm just going to have a quick recap and then try to see where we have to go, because it helps me a lot. You give me a lot of talking points. Another very funny thing is that imagine like you go to the first grade and then after they come back home and was like, Mom, I graduated. And I was like, what happened? I was like, I started going to school. It's just like we have cities and smart cities. Like there's nothing in middle, you know, it's just like either you're a smart city or you're not a smart city. So guys, is there any ranking? Like, is there like a smart city level 1, a smart city level 2, or like any way that we can try to differentiate these cities from each other?
I think there is. Actually, I think that there are several rankings. I don't know if they're actually in the sense that you practically imply, like the first grade or second grade or the sixth grade, where you graduate at the end. But for sure there are rankings in terms of absolute numbers by various institutions and universities and organizations worldwide. And in most of those, the same cities appear to be in the highest rank, so they're most probably also consistent in their results. I think they use several indicators for several aspects of smart cities like mobility or energy or waste management, buildings management, and so on and so forth. What I think is important in those rankings and categorizations of cities, at least in my mind, one of the most important things that somebody should consider in order also to be able to assess and to interpret those results of the rankings is the size of the city. Not all cities are the same, but based on my limited experience, what I can say is that smaller-sized cities are very well suited in order to implement those types of solutions which are implied under the smart city umbrella. They're much easier to manage, they're much easier to procure, to implement, and to adapt from the side of the citizens. But to answer your question, yes, there are several rankings, and one can easily find those on the web. There is not just one.
So if I understood correctly, size does matter. Just trying to be scientifically accurate. So.
Sure.
Okay, so Robert.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. You know, in Germany, we just have a couple of handful of cities with more than 100,000 people, but we have 2,000 cities plus with less than that. So obviously, if you're a larger city, if you're a metropolis, you have different problems, and you also differently need to deal with that. And there, technology, new processes, learning from what other municipalities are doing is really going to help you. But of course, also smaller municipalities have their own challenges, and becoming a smart city, being on that journey towards being a smart city can help to deal with that. For me, the kind of pinnacle of being a smart city is achieved when you're actually learning from other cities how they are dealing with their challenges and being in a kind of constant exchange of best practices about that. But also on the other side, using whatever means you have, and that can be technology, that can be processes, to kind of try out new things and also work between the different departments of a city to figure out these challenges that you have. Because that is one big thing that I see in a lot of different cities, that you have these silos in between the different departments. You know, only the traffic department deals with traffic, the environmental department deals with the environment, and so on. And if you have a challenge that kind of affects both or more of them, then that is really where becoming a smart city can help you to tackle that.
So a smart city is a sustainable city. Can we?
And an integrated city, yeah.
An integrated city. I like that. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, just continue this point. So it's really important to achieve the sustainable goals. And if we measure the city just in terms of number of technologies or solutions which they implemented in terms of traffic jams or in terms of security, it's definitely not enough, and it can kind of don't show the correct measurement. So I would prefer to measure is this city achieve the sustainable goals, rather than just to measure is there have great department which work very well in terms of traffics, for example. Yeah, and in the terms of traffics, it can be on the first place, but in other indicators like safety or pollution can be opposite. So how we can measure and put this city on the top comparing to others. So yeah, I think that more important that to make this balance score, it's more important to measure the level of smart tests.
Okay. I would say even sometimes cities, I wish there was a better name for it, just not all this would be cities. We have Barcelona that was made by Gaudi. For me, this is like a personal pet project. And then you see some South American cities that if you really want to find your way, it's just like turn 4 times in that direction and then maybe left, but a bit towards the right. I'm not sure if, for example, like if you guys know like what 3 words, because it's so hard sometimes to find like Google-style maps, because unless you literally have a name for that GPS location, it's impossible to find. Or then you go to Barcelona and then everything is grid. It's just like you just know exactly where you're going, or even to some extent, some part of New York. So we're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about the fact that we talked about the size of the city, the integration of the city, the infrastructure of the city. But maybe this time I'm going to start from you, Alex. Like, if you talk about infrastructure, because I mean, I live in Warsaw, and they always say that, oh yeah, like these fields are old, and that's why we have a problem. Warsaw was being flat. Like every time I bring people to Warsaw, and I was like, oh, this is new, that's new. Oh, there were like 2 things there. But when they built the city, they built it exactly the way it was. So not every city has this, and I'm sorry, there was so many sadness and bad things that I want to say the luxury of just being able to rebuild it, but I'm only talking about the, let's just say, technological aspect of that they did not do that, and they went after the heritage, and they went after that, let's just say, restoring all the memories that people had. I was having a chat with my friend that she was saying that she's happy that she still see her grandmother's house in that side. So I understand the empathy towards that. But if you really would like to see the cities of the future, where do we have to start? Do we have to flatten the city and start at the top? Do we have to build a new city, or we can try to repurpose a normal city to smart city?
Great question. So we see the many examples. By the way, could you switch on the presentations, and I will show some example later. But before presentation is downloading, between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, there is a city which is just built from the scratch, and they tried to create many things, kind of solar panels, and to make this totally autonomous. But something went wrong, with this, and people don't want to live there. Why? Another side, it's like you mentioned about Warsaw, and it's created from the flat, from the zero, and to save heritage. But the main point was to just save heritage, and they didn't think about how to build roads in the best way, and the heritage dominated in this planning. As already mentioned, Ukraine now, many cities of Ukraine destroyed right now, and it's really painful to see what is happening now in these cities. But from another side, we have an opportunity just to build the city from the scratch and to implement the best technologies, taking into account the heritage, but to engage more technologies which already tested and shows a good result in the European city, in Germany, in Poland, and other city. So it didn't switch off. So, but the point is that many European cities already started to create the plan what they want to do with Ukrainian cities. And I will tell later, and we wanted to create kind of platform where all technologies which are existing now can be implemented on selected city in Ukraine. Which technology, it's a question, and it's upon the decision of all stakeholders, but it's a time to make this experiment now.
Okay. Make an experiment. I mean, I'm not always happy to hear making experiments. Sometimes these things really go south. But if you don't mind, just to maybe diversify the questions a bit more. And I'm going to ask you maybe a bit more of a controversial question. Do you even think smart cities are good?
Well, I mean, I think that goes. That's a good question. That goes back to the point that I was trying to make earlier. That if you create a city just for it to be smart, if you take, for instance, as you said, a number of technologies implemented as a KPI to whether a city is smart or not, that doesn't work. That's not a good smart city. I think if you want to have a smart city that is actually good and that helps its inhabitants, then you need to be aware to use the means that you have, the technologies, the processes, to tackle the challenges that the residents actually have and to try to improve the quality of life and not just implement technology for technology's sake. And if you do that, then I really believe that using smart city technologies can help us to make our cities more efficient. They can help us to save resources, for instance, by implementing smart streetlights. And here I'm trying to give you a little bit that you can talk about later. Yeah, and thereby like creating better traffic flows, for instance, and thereby also having a positive impact on the environment, and having a positive impact on the commuter times, and so on. And I think examples like this really show that you can have very simple technologies in the end that can have a huge impact on the quality of life of the residents of a city. But you always need to have their needs and their wishes in the forefront of your mind.
Good. Thank you. That was pretty spot on. So then goes a different aspect of that. How much do you think smart city is related to a green city?
They do, but I think it's not a prerequisite because there are green cities already, not necessarily smart, and the other way around. This relates hugely also to some other aspects in the background of urban planning. You cannot very easily modify land uses, at least in Europe. These are legislation. Actually, urban planning rules are legislative rules, so they're not very easy to change and modify those, at least in Europe and in old established cities, as we know those in Europe. Perhaps in other parts of the world, things might be easier, especially for those countries where new cities appear out of nowhere. Now, I think that there is some sort of shift towards what you mean. In Europe, there have been several programs and policies and support in various types and forms for smart cities. This was the exact term, but very recently, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the European Union announced the 100 climate-neutral cities. Wrocław is part of those, by the way, which is quite important. So I think, at least from the EU policy dimension, the objective will be for the next 10 years or so to reduce carbon emissions significantly. This might imply also some urban regeneration activities in some parts of the city. So yes, greening would also fit in there. But as I said, it's not a prerequisite.
Okay, I'm just going to go back a bit to the audience just to see where we are. How many of you guys think that you live in a smart city? Okay, how many of you guys can raise your hand? I'm just going to have a quick answer. Okay, so you really don't live in a smart city. We really have to fix that, because I think, how many of you guys think you're in a modern city? You see, that's a massive discrepancy, right? Like, a lot of people feel that they are in a modern city, but a smart city. And also, when we discuss this factor of the human factor, the factor that it has a lot to do about people, and it has a lot to do about administration. Because we, unfortunately, most of the time, we count the number of IoTs that we have in a city, and then we just say if that's a smart city or it's not a city. And another thing, I'm not sure how many of you guys really thought about it, but we don't have a lot of discussions on media and everything about a smart planet. Because I was like, let's just make a smart planet. Everything is about cities, as if like cities are real things because they are just fictitious, but planet is real. Because the reality is the planet is pretty smart. Planet knows by itself how to be sustainable. There is 100% integration because there is one planet. And at the same time, if you really take a look at it, if we're not going to mess it up, it's doing a pretty good job, right? So the only malfunctioning part of that is this, two-legged creatures that they are basically walking all over it. So how do we change that? Again, I'm just going to start from your side and then try to go back. Like, how do we have to try to just make people have a better understanding or better feeling that, yes, I live in a smart city?
That's a difficult question.
We didn't say it's going to be an easy panel, so.
What I have in mind is not the smart planet, actually it's the smartphone. And I think what was important is that, at least in that domain, people were able to create a technology that was precognitive. I think this is the important part. And I think this will make the difference at the end, also at the level of smart cities. I'm really scared to talk about a smart planet. I think the key is to create something that knows what you want before you actually want it and solves that. This is what the smartphones did, and I think this is why they became so successful. So I think this is the right direction to think about smart cities, providing to citizens solutions to their problems and to their daily lives, even before that they recognize they have this problem, at a very personal and daily level, I mean.
I could ask you the same question, but because there is a name Breathe in your company, I just want to, if you don't mind, maybe you can focus a bit more on the environmental aspect of that.
Yeah, sure. But I'm actually going to use your smartphone metaphor as a starting point for that, because I think that's really a fantastic example. The smartphone put a lot of power into the hands of people. This is my first time in this city. I arrived yesterday evening at the airport, and I had zero problem at all to get to my hotel, to figure out how to get here in the morning. If I think back 10, 15, 20 years, I would have been screwed probably, right? Or at least I would have paid much more for a taxi driver to take me all around the city before at some point arriving at my hotel. And the what3word example that you gave earlier, this is another one of these enabling technologies that weren't designed by a city or by some sort of smart city consortium, but no, they were designed by somebody that was frustrated with the status quo of trying to find their way. And now we have an additional layer of these what3word addresses to just put on top of our planet, and they're solving challenges globally with that. And now this leads me to this point that I'm trying to make here, with that these smart city technologies can actually help the individual people to overcome challenges, and they can help to empower the individuals in our cities to also work towards having a more sustainable, having a greener, having a cleaner city. One of the earliest findings that we made when we talked with cities about our solutions in air quality was that public officials in some cities, not all of them, were afraid of the air quality data that we were producing. I talked to a lot of mayors that told me, not so officially, hey, if we start to monitor in more places how the air quality looks like, we might find additional challenges. And I told them, yes, you will probably find points that you didn't know about where the pollution levels were too high. But we're also going to tell you how you can deal with those most efficiently. And there are, on the one side, the public officials that are afraid of that and don't want to do that, but they become less and less. And there's more and more in the public service that actually want to resolve these challenges. And this is why we, for instance, we have designed like a citizen portal, for instance, where we share a lot of data with the public, and we try to also tell this, the public officials, hey, if you do that, you actually make yourself look good, because if you show your population, hey, these are the problems, but we are doing this to solve them, then of course the citizens are happier than if you're just trying to somehow maintain a status quo and wait for these what3word technologies, for instance, to come around and really put a spotlight on the challenges that you might have.
Good. Again, just to diversify, and then, guys, we can talk till... Who wants to stay till the end of the day just to talk about the smart cities? No one? Yes, one person. So it's a very deep topic because we all live somewhere. And let's just say there are so many things that we have to want to go back and hopefully to a smarter city, especially if that really means smarter people. And we're all tired of, not us, but other people that are stupid and they make everything complicated. And that is one of those things that we really try to solve. Talking about Ukraine. One of the things that we can also try to do is to wait for legislation to be changed, the governments to be better, and I'm not sure how many of you guys want to live for 200-300 years, but I think I'm not going to be that time around. So what do we do with private sector? Do you really think smart cities are just something that governments need to do? Or maybe you can think of the private sector as a way to help what you mentioned with this restructuring the cities and make them smarter?
Yeah, thanks for the questions. Could you please again put the presentation? And to be honest, especially in Ukraine, private sector plays the most important role right now. So, and even in the previous life, in normal life, usually when we're talking about the concept, how Ukrainian cities are developing, so it's more about ecosystem. It's more about, the component of different stakeholders and different angels which united in one cycle. So it's more about ecosystem, and when people from private sides and people from government sides and community and students and experts join together and to think how to resolve the existing challenges. And usually I believe in open innovation approach. And during my career, I did many open innovation projects with corporates, and even during making this project in corporates, we always make the same problem. People in the department don't want to implement technology because they disrupt something old, something which they don't want to touch, because, as you mentioned, it's bring new problem. It's one point. Another point, the people lose power. And they don't want to lose power and just want to keep the status quo. And how you can implement solution when your stakeholders' position is just to keep status quo? We are talking about corporate sector. But when we are talking about municipalities, government sectors, it's double harder to do to make this. How to say it, disruptions, yeah, let's call it this. It's really creative, but disruptions. And we had experiment. I love this word experiment because you can achieve something new only through experiment. And we did it in Lviv city a couple of years ago when we engaged several corporate partners like DTEK, Vodafone, and Cisco, who says, guys, we're ready to pay for solutions, but you, like municipal, should choose what solution are the best for this or that area, for electricity supply, for traffic, for different services which utilities companies provided. So, private sector pay for solutions, government put the challenges, technological providers and technological teams like startups and mature companies bring the solutions, and based on these discussions and this very long process, but finally, after over 60 solutions, we found top 10 the best and integrated in the city. So, and this is an example of how private sector, government sectors, and technological minds and spirits can bring cities to the next level. So, and I believe in this open innovation, it works. And answering on your questions about Ukraine and what happening next, I believe it's now time to open this opportunity to many cities which already implemented solution to share the solution with Ukrainian cities. And I'm pretty sure the private sector will support now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, of course. I mean, the good news is that you guys have the private number to Elon Musk, so you're not going to have a problem with the private sector.
In Ukraine, definitely now number 2 in the world after Japan in terms of the numbers of satellites from Elon Musk. Yeah.
So yeah, nice guy to have. If he get out of Twitter, he's going to do a lot of good job. So also getting out of the Twitter, talking about challenges and innovation. Let's just say that we have definitely smartphone. If any of you guys don't have your phone next to you, there's an emergency room out there. You can just go there and then try to find it, because that's impossible. And then we go back to the number of the people who live in smart homes. How many of you guys live in a smart home? You see, I love that there's one person here that lives in a smart home and a smart city. Where do you live? Poznan. Nice. I was more thinking of somewhere a little bit more in the western side, but I love the city. So that's the point. We really have to try to understand why we are living in a city that is not smart, why we are still living in a home that is not smart. That basically goes back to also what Clinton said about its economy is stupid. Is this really economically makes values for us? Or they just say this is just a luxury that we're trying to add. That's why 90% of people here, they do not live in a smart home, in a smart city, and they're still fine. So Evangelos, you can try to have your points on that.
I wouldn't consider that a luxury. I might be able to say that perhaps the technologies are not solving the actual problem yet, or they're not yet so mature, or perhaps they are. So no, for sure it's not a luxury for a city. I think it is a combination of what has already been mentioned several times also by the other speakers today. A city by itself cannot do that. There is a need for this ecosystemic, open innovation, whatever you want to call it, approach. At the end of the day, it means that the city needs to collaborate with the private sector, with universities, with the academics, with startups, with the citizens themselves, in order to create the necessary framework conditions in order to actually do something meaningful. And this is, what I just said does not cost anything. It's at zero cost. After that, and utilizing all these new procurement approaches that start to appear also in Europe, I think the costs are bearable for cities. Of course, depends on the size of the projects and the size of the underlying problems. But for sure, in my mind, it is not a luxury. It is to start with. I think it is an organizational / procedural issue, and this is why I mentioned that the smart city includes also smart administration at the beginning. Cities somehow need to organize themselves. Perhaps they need to establish new organizations that will manage the smart city part of their city. And this is already happening in several cities. But no, it's not a luxury. It's an organizational and procedural issue for the city at the beginning to understand the underlying problems, to set a clear roadmap, how to achieve the solutions for those problems, and as I said, also utilizing these new innovative funding and collaborative schemes that are allowed, practically meaning public-private partnerships. I think it's not a luxury for sure.
Okay. I'm just going to say something else. Like 2-3 days ago, I had a problem with my internet provider for the first time after a very long time. And we came back home. And also for your information, I do live in a smart home. And I was just like, I can't turn the lights on. And I was like, okay, so I can put a hotspot for my laptop, but it doesn't connect to the TV anymore. So I was just like, you know what? We're just going to find somewhere to work with the oven, and then we're just going to watch something on the laptop and go to sleep because you cannot live there. I think that's also another aspect of not living in a smart city or a smart home, because it becomes a bit more volatile and let's just say more demanding on first internet and then a lot of other aspects that you never had, right? Like you go home, you just, have a match, you just, light up the candle, and then after that your home is ready, Now it's just like the internet speed is not good, why the cable on that side is not connected to the washing machine, and so on and so forth. So maybe I can just try to go back and then try to talk about the damage control. Like, how much do you think that, let's just say, smart cities and let's just say all these aspects of that, there are, if I can call it this anti-fragile?
Yeah, it's a great example. I also live in a smart home, but my home I can still open the door even if there's no internet, luckily. But I also have experienced it in the past. There was no internet, and you cannot use the apps anymore to control stuff. You have, of course, your physical buttons still, but yeah. But also talking a bit in my role as an EU climate ambassador here, in the beginning of the year, I switched all the what's it called, the heat valves of my radiators to smart radiators, and at least the app tells me I'm saving 30 to 40% of energy every month now, because they turn off when I go home, they turn on like half an hour before I come home. So they are less on, and they turn off automatically when I leave the city. So that's less complexity now in my mind, having to think about that. And on the other side, I also save money, because if you look at the energy prices, they're really crazy, right? I did a small calculation. In 1 year, these smart radiators have paid off for me already. And we're saving the environment at the same time. But I totally agree with you on the damage control part, and I believe we need to have a serious conversation about, on the one side, how much comfort and how much time might these smart city technologies be saving us, versus on the other side, if they actually fail, and what is the likelihood of them failing, what does that actually mean for us? Will the city break down? Will the city break down for a week? Or is that just rebooting the infrastructure once, and then after 5 minutes of disruptions, we are back to normal? And of course, the more serious the technologies and the areas of where we're using the technologies get, like if we are deploying smart infrastructure, for instance, for your fire brigade or for your ambulances, those need to be way more resilient than these kind of quality of life technologies, like measuring air quality, or nobody will die if we don't measure air quality for 5 minutes and then the system reboots. So I believe we need to have that discussion, but what kind of makes it easier in that sense is that there is already some good examples out there of cities using smart technologies. And I haven't heard of so many cities that went completely dark for a couple of days yet. I believe that will happen in the future. We will have these stories in the news, but probably this will be a learning experience for all of us, what technologies to avoid then. And, progress is always also somewhat lined by failure, and from a startup's perspective, you learn from your mistakes every time. So we cannot just completely avoid the smart city topic because we might be afraid of failing there.
I mean, for cities that they can go dark, you can go to North Korea, because that would what call them Tuesday. So I'm just going to, again, tune it a bit into a different direction. So we have LG Home. If anybody is from LG here, we should have a lot of them around. So let's just call it into something a bit more practical. So making a city smart is usually way more complicated. But how about aggregation of a lot of smart homes? Like, how do you see? Because especially you mentioned post-war. I mean, you know, the funny thing is, like, cities are not properly damaged. Like, most of the time, homes are going to be damaged, right? So, and then after that, let's just say that people have to come back to those homes to be able to pay taxes, to be able to go through the rest of it. So how do you see the role of the smart homes? And especially, again, what we discussed, like, I'm a big fan of the private sector, that if the money basically come from private sector, then the public sector would follow. So how do you really see the role of the smart homes in both, let's just say, the progress of a smart city, and at the same time in the overall quality of life of people?
I think the quality of life, it's not equal to the smart city and to smart homes totally, but sometimes it makes the life simple, more simple definitely. And but again, if it's too smart sometimes, and if something broken, you don't have enough skills to live during the short or long period of time without the skills which needed to live without smart city. So, is it make the people happy or not? I'm not sure that this will make people happy. And 7 years ago, I made a journey to the jungle and living in near the river without electricity, without Wi-Fi, without anything. And I can say you that it was the most remarkable and the most happiness time in my life when you just listen the voice of birds in the morning. Not 3D, 4D, 5D acoustics. So just listening these kind of voices of monkeys, of mosquitoes, and this bring to the real life. And maybe I'm conservative, but when you can compare, where do you prefer to live? In smart house with many scientific and complicated stuff, or in the rural area, but to be close to the nature, but use the civilizations to achieve your personal goals and to find this way of living. I think again we need each people should have opportunity to choose. Do they prefer to live in passive dome with solar plants on the roof and water supply from the air and etc., or maybe just live in normal buildings with electricity, internet connections, and work from home and to serve global clients? So I think there is no right answer. What is best and what is wrong? So it's very important to create opportunity for people to choose the lifestyle and not just create the block boxes, smart block boxes with the smart houses, and that's all. Like an example of the city, I don't remember the name of the city between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It's like
I'm worried that if I would say it, I'm going to butcher it, but...
Yeah. So the cities, you can create the best city, smart houses, but nobody wants to live there. Or in the jungles without anything, and people are happy.
Yeah, I mean, if I say I learned something from the panel, if somebody would ask me how smart can the cities get, I will say as smart as its own people. Maybe I will say that might be a good, let's just say, wrap up the whole thing. But if you guys know what is happening right now in the Silicon Valley, and let's just say people that they are way more tech savvy than us, is that they are basically just having a bunch of chickens in the backyard, and they're also super happy that their house is totally Wi-Fi free. And all of a sudden, you see some other places that they're using technologies that they are producing. They're just saying that how can we just get more Wi-Fi back in, and also try to have less of a backyard, because we just want to basically use it for electric vehicles and everything else. So I really think one of the main points that we have to fix is to be a bit more, let's just say, environmentally friendly, and be a bit more, if I can just don't use anything sophisticated, normal. That's what you're mentioning about being and living, let's just say, in nature and feeling even more comfortable than my smart home and smart city. So let's just say that maybe we can try to be, and it's a tech conference and a tech environment, but a bit more, let's just say, honest with ourselves, maybe be a bit more conscious about the fact that everything starts with us, and then try to have, hopefully, maybe focus on our side and everything, and hopefully everything else would follow. And with that, I just really would like to say thank you. That was a very engaging and very interesting discussion panel. And I would like to ask you guys, in case you have any questions from our speakers, I'm sure you can find them, outside in the conference, and try to make sure that this conversation just continue. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Robert, and of course, thank you, Evangelos. It was a very great panel. If I'm going to be honest, the question of smart cities have always been on my mind, and hearing some thoughts and even some controversial, in my opinion, opinions here, I think my perception and my relation to the topic has pivoted a bit. And I would be very curious, what is your opinion on that? My colleague Alexander has just placed a poll on our Hopin platform in which you can vote. Would you rather live in such conditions if you were free, of course, to choose without any complications or constraints? Would you rather live in a fully automated, a perfect dream of a smart city, or rather to reconnect with the nature and try to stay distant from the technical overload? I would be very curious in your answers, and I probably will announce them somewhere later on in the day. But as of now, I wanted to give a moment for my volunteers to rearrange the stage, and we will have the presentation which will blow your mind. Just give us a second. Thank you. And we are back. Thank you so much for waiting. I know not a lot of you have still held your places in the room, but I know that online my colleague Alexandra has already shared with me that there are some hundreds of people watching us. So that's a big pleasure that we can have a very, very international outreach while you're chilling in your hotels and waiting for the party to start without the need to show up here. But still, if you have the on-site ticket, we highly encourage you to come here. Come on, let's go and network in real time. Since COVID times, I've been so much human contact starved. I've never loved actually previously, but now I really love talking to people in real life. That's crazy how sometimes the circumstances change you. Anyways, I'm going to tell you that there's something exciting is coming up. Because what we have now is the Magdalena Kudlicka, who's the project manager for Polish Challenge Fund at the United Nations Development Program. She'll have an amazing program with a lot of opportunities for the development. So let's hear her out. And Magdalena, please welcome on stage.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Magdalena Kudlicka, and I am a project manager for Polish Challenge Fund at United Nations Development Program, one of the biggest and well-known development agencies in the world. I joined the Wolf Summit today to spread the news about our modality, which is called Polish Challenge Fund, and also to mention to tech society about UNDP funding opportunities, which are not a very obvious opportunity because actually no one knows about this, or very little people knows about this. But today I'm going to introduce you this modality, which is, I think, a very nice opportunity to be visible even on a global scale, even for a small startup, even for a small tech company. And I will prove you that this is feasible because we already have those examples. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So what is the purpose of this Polish Challenge Fund modality? United Nations Development Program works in about 170 countries and territories all around the world, helping to eradicate poverty, reduce inequalities and exclusion, and build resilience to countries so countries can sustain their progress. And as the UN's development agency, UNDP plays a critical role in helping countries achieve the sustainable development goals. So this is a kind of intro. And one of the partners of UNDP in the region of Europe and Central Asia is actually a Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they support this modality, Polish Challenge Fund, for about 2 years now. And I'm happy to tell you today that we actually are going to launch another call very, very soon. So this is a funding opportunity for you, for all the tech companies and startups that are gathered here today. So what is the purpose? We are looking for innovative solutions that would boost economy and also social standards in our partner countries, which are Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. And because of the international situation, the next call, we already granted a number of projects in Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, but also in Belarus, but it was before, a long time before. Now we are working with our partners in Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova, and now because of the international situation, we are going to launch a call focused especially on Moldova and their needs to mitigate the negative consequences of the current crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. And we invite every tech company with innovative solutions that would fit into our challenges, which are very broad, actually. So next slide, please. Okay, so who can participate? Basically, every entity which is registered in Poland, private sector entity, which is registered in Poland, can apply to Polish Challenge Fund. We also invite academia, as we know that these are the environments where very modern, very innovative solutions are invented, and around those academia, very often startups appears that that are actually launched to scale up the solutions. So these are our two main eligible applicants that can apply to the Polish Challenge Fund. And what kind of innovations? As I already told you, we already granted 21 solutions, and these are very diverse solutions. We granted bee saving projects. We granted training and mentoring projects. Also waste management projects, or smart solutions for cities like, I don't know, car sharing, or managing traffic light systems with AT using. So if at the last slide, I will give you the web page address of the Polish Challenge Fund, which is polishchallengefund.org. So, and there you have the information about all the projects that were granted until now. What kind of innovations? All of those innovations that can fit into our challenges, and our challenges are very broad. Before every call, we formulate those challenges, and as for now, there were smart cities, ICT and the digital solutions, anti-COVID solutions, and green technologies. So as you can see, many entities can fit into these challenges. Next slide, please. So what exactly happening when you apply and when you actually get the award? If we choose your solution, you get the award up to $40,000 of US, and you have also the access, like the rules for the project, for your initiative, is that you have to provide us with this exquisite solution, and you have to find a local partner in the beneficiary country, meaning Moldova this time, as we are going to launch this call in Moldova very soon, within like 2 weeks. So you have to find the local partner in Moldova. You have to provide us with this exquisite solution, diverse solution, in comparison also to the previous one. And you get this $40,000 of US award. And beside, you also, like, we understand it, like, you sharing your solutions without taking financial risks while entering the foreign market. You can test your solution in real-time environment if it is like testing a feasibility study, because this is also allowed. But also you can sell your product, you can introduce your technology, you can introduce your know-how, all with the goal of boosting the economy of the local community, enhancing their living conditions, and in general, having in mind the sustainable development goals of the UN. So, of course, very nice benefit from cooperating with us is also joining a huge United Nations family, because our awardees have the right to use our logos, and very often people building their visibility around our funding opportunities. So this is basically what you can get. Okay, now let's move to some successful examples of our projects. As I already told you, we granted 21, next slide please. We granted 21 solutions until now. On the web page you can see 18 of them, as we still proceeding with 3 agreements, so soon there will be shared, but maybe you've heard about this very innovative technology of perovskites, printed, inkjet printed, very super thin solar modules. So it is produced by the company called Solar Technologies, and they actually took part in the first call for proposals to the Polish Challenge Fund, and they get the award, and what they did was absolutely amazing. This is one of the most innovative projects we got during the Polish Challenge Fund. So basically, they provided the population of European bisons in Ukraine with collars powered by this ultra-thin solar panels, and they, with WWF Ukraine as their local partner, they were monitoring the movements of this European bison's population. So that was like a green technology, that was an innovative solution, that was also something to preserve our biodiversity. And we welcomed very warmly their project. It was absolutely exquisite. That was in 2020, actually. Okay, go on. Let's move to another. And this is another company awarded by Polish Challenge Fund. It is called Early. Perhaps some of you knows them already. This is actually the biggest success of the Challenge Fund, Polish Challenge Fund, but not only Polish Challenge Fund. As in UNDP, we have also Slovak and Czech Challenge Fund, and in comparison with that solutions, I think Early is the biggest winner ever so far. And we are still looking for someone who could replace them, but this is really difficult, as they were granted twice. This is one thing. They were granted twice. They implemented their project in Belarus, in Minsk, but that was 2020 as well. So the conditions were quite different. And what they did, they installed their air pollution sensors all around the city. They started to monitor the levels of pollution. But what is really like very interesting for this project, they managed to scale up thanks to our award, and also thanks, not only, but also thanks to our logo using and so on. They were able to scale up in Europe, in most of the countries in Europe. They also started to provide their sensors in India, I think, and some parts of Asia, Africa as well. And as far as I've heard lately, they started to conquer the US market with some new type air pollution devices, which are specially designed for the US market. So this is quite a success. But this is not all. They also contributed to UNDP's air pollution policy. Their experts and analyses were used while we were working a year ago. In the peak of pandemic, we started to produce this policy paper about how the environment and air pollution can fuel the COVID pandemic and spreading the disease. And with their analytics, we could actually manage to do it. So you can see that working with UNDP is not only an opportunity to scale up your technical solution, but this is also a way to success in any other way you can actually profit it. It's totally and completely up to you how you use this opportunity to cooperate with us. What is really one last thing about EARLY. In Minsk, they started to cooperate with a local company. People from there moved to Poland and started an entity or a company that measure the impact of the entire, all the factors, environmental factors, on everyday humans' lives, meaning the weather, the air pollution, pollination, and many other factors. They were also granted. They introduced a great innovative solution. In the third round of Polish Challenge Fund, they found a local partner from Ukraine, and they started to implement their project in October last year, so way before the war started. However, now with their local partner, who has sensor all around the Ukraine, and their local partner has also the agreement with the Ministry of Environment in Ukraine, they actually told us that they are able to measure the level of nuclear radiation all around Ukraine, which is something really important for many people in Ukraine, but also in Europe people follow this news about the levels of radiation. So actually, thanks to the Polish Challenge Fund, it will be feasible for anyone to get those data on their smartphones, thanks to their application. We of course agreed that they should include this opportunity to their application. That company is called Liczba, and as I said, but this is a kind of spin-off of EARLY. So just imagine. So this is why I'm telling that this is the biggest winner from the Polish Challenge Fund. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Two examples I already introduced, meaning Saule Technologies and EARLY. That was the initiatives that were already closed. It was in 2020, 2021. They are closed, finished, and so on. Now I'm going to introduce to present two initiatives which are ongoing. EcoBeans, they were awarded in the fourth round. So this year, actually, like the call for proposal was last year, but the agreement they got, it was in March. So they are quite fresh in this contest. But their solution is also exquisite. I mean, they are producing everyday life products from coffee waste and like plant pots or straws or stuff like that. And this is really interesting solution. And they got their local partner from Moldova. This is a coffee shop chain called Tucano Beans. And with them, they are running now a feasibility study in Moldova. They are checking if it is feasible for them to launch a biggest cooperation in Moldova, because they want to, in the very long-term perspective, they want to build a factory there and get the coffee waste from Moldova, which is one of the biggest consumer of coffee in Europe per capita. And they are going to settle there and produce this coffee waste products from to European markets, but also to Moldova markets. So this is really interesting solution, and they are running the feasibility study. So as I said at the beginning, this is the opportunity for feasibility study, but also to sell the products, to introduce products, to share knowledge, to make whatever you need in order to scale up or to just be on international markets. Okay, so next slide, please. This solution, Spina in Georgia, this is a kind of smart city solution. So I was hearing the previous panel about smart cities, and I thought, oh, my presentation perfectly aligns with what people there were saying about smart cities and so on. And please believe me that even in countries like Moldova, Georgia, or Ukraine, which people in Europe do not exactly connect with development or high level of development, people there are extremely interested in smart solution in cities because they know that it will enhance the life level of the inhabitants. And Spina in Georgia, their solution is that they equipped the traffic light system with the artificial intelligence, which prioritize the buses in Batumi. And Batumi is well known as one of the most crowded cities in the region, not only in Georgia, but in the region. And in the central intersection of Batumi, they introduced this system, and they are going to. So basically, this is their smart solution. Yeah, I'm going to finish soon. Okay, so next slide, please. So as I already told you, this is Olga Malinkiewicz. She's the CEO of Sole Technologies. So she's actually the inventor of this super thin inkjet solar panels. And what we can offer to you is a commercial scale-up of initiatives, but also non-commercial scale-up, like the visibility and the recognition, which is actually a kind of key for success. And also high interest in Polish expertise and experience, because most of our companies which were awarded, now they are really profit from the cooperation with us. Okay, please go on with another slide. We ran a survey among our awardees, asking them how it was to cooperate with us. Everyone was super happy. And I know that this is a really nice journey and a really nice adventure to cooperate with us. Okay, go on next slide. Yeah, this is the satisfaction rate. And okay, next slide are my contact details. Oh, no, this is the wrong presentation. Because I shared the okay, so my contact details, I will tell you. So you could contact me directly. My contact details is magdalena.kudlicka@undp.org. Maybe I could write it someplace. I don't know. And the webpage address is polishchallengefund.org. And you can contact me via this website or directly by the email. And I would like to encourage all of you to follow UNDP procurement, not only because of the Polish Challenge Fund, but as I already mentioned, UNDP runs Slovak Challenge Fund, and basically the rules are pretty much the same. They are also run Czech Challenge Fund. They have Ocean Innovation Fund, and they have a lot of accelerators, initiatives under umbrella of UNDP. So I would like to encourage you to just follow the webpage of UNDP and to be open on the funding opportunities provided by UNDP. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Magdalena. Thank you so much. We are having some technical difficulties with the clicker. So it will take us a minute to rearrange the stage once again and also try to fix the clicker. So just give us a minute. But I reassure you that the next panel that we are going to have is going to be either the panel or the keynote. We'll see how it goes. But either way, it's going to be very Ukrainian-centered. And trust me, I've seen some sneak peeks of the presentations, and oh my God. It's going to be very, very much unexpected, and I would say very interesting. So just give us a second. We're going to rearrange the stage, and we'll be back with you. Thank you. We are back actually much more quicker this time, which is a delight for me. We will hope that the clicker will work. And obviously, I'm trying to deliver as the promises. So I'm going to introduce to you Olena Maritskaya, who is the CEO and the founder at ISE. She will tell you more about herself, but also it's a very deep and personal presentation for me, for her, and for all of the Ukrainian people, since it's going to be a very, very insightful presentation about how Ukrainian ecosystem is dealing with war. Olena, please, welcome on stage.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here and thankful to Wolf Summit team that we invited so many Ukrainian startups these days. It's about 50 startups supposed to participate during those 4 days when pitching online and offline. And I'm happy that we can speak and discuss what's happening in Ukraine now. So, starting off my personal story, I'm an investment professional from Ukraine, working in different industries. And basically, I dedicated 15 years of my life to build Ukraine. I created several hospitals there, I created hotels, I built manufacturing. So basically, I dedicated life to building. And now I have to see how it's destructing. And it's really, really painful. And you know what? I'm teaching startups. I'm teaching startups and entrepreneurship. And we have to go through those important things that we have while building startup, you have to restart. Restart and restart, try again if something doesn't work. You have pivot everything if it doesn't work. And you know, now we are in such situation that we have to pivot our country. Basically, we're pivoting it totally, because now, instead of traditional industries, we have to be more militaristic just in order to survive. So maybe Ukraine now is one of the biggest startups ever. But I want you to see how it was before. You know, everyone now have seen many, many pictures of destruction and what's happening. But I want to see you just what was 2 months, so 3 months ago. Please, can you put first video? Ukraine is open for you. There are 2 secrets why Russia cannot defeat us so easy. And one, it's they didn't expect that Ukraine is so modern, so digitalized, so technological country. And I want to invite my colleagues that will discuss with me the story of Ukraine and the technology sector of Ukraine. Please join me on stage, Dmitry Vartanyan, Seed Venture Partners. This is we see from Ukraine, and it's very special to me. I want to speak about everyone a little bit and then invite all of you. Because Dmitry just has done 4 transactions, as far as I read, or maybe even more, 4 deals during the March and April in Ukraine. So this is VC fund that actually believe in Ukraine so much that they keep investing in Ukrainian startups. Please applaud him, because this is you have to have a courage to keep investing in Ukraine now.
Thank you.
I want to invite Andrei Golubinsky, founder and CEO of Apastera. Apastera is a very special Ukrainian startup that now is famous because it's used by premium segment automotive cars in Germany. Basically, they have made joint ventures with Audi, and I think Andrei will tell more. Recently, I think in January 2022, they have made exit to Harman. Very successful story. So Andrei will elaborate on it. And I want to invite Oksana Zabolotna. Oksana Zabolotna is a partner for Qubit Labs and Symptomatical. It's a Ukrainian outstaffing company, so basically dealing with software. And Oksana, can I ask you to just so I will work with Clicker, and also co-founder of startup Symptomatical. The case of Oksana that she is making successful business for 15 years in Ukraine, being in Ukraine, staying in Ukraine, and without relocation. So she came here just from Lviv Oblast just to speak for a couple of days and going back there. And you know what's interesting, despite the war and what has happened, they managed to create new contracts, and they are growing despite the war. So I think all of them have something to tell special about what's happening in Ukraine. Guys, can you please introduce and more about yourself, each of you, and I will join you.
Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Andrei. I was a CEO of the company before the acquisition. We are dealing with, within the automotive industry, actually, we developed a very innovative product called augmented reality that is being used right now by the premium German OEMs. And we launched the company back in 2017 with the headquarters in Munich, but the main, actually, almost all engineers were and actually are based in Ukraine. And like Helena just mentioned, that the beginning of this year, just before the war, that nobody actually expected, we did a successful exit and we joined the leader in automotive. It's Harman. It's the company belongs to the Samsung Group, and right now, jointly with the company, with the Harman, we are leading the age in the augmented reality field in automotive space. But it is true to say that this particular product, 100% made in Ukraine, and actually was built and inspired by Ukrainian people. And also, actually, all founders are from Ukraine as well. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Dmitry Vartanian, and I'm in IT for 20 years. Recently, it was the birthday of our company, Sigma Software, where I'm a founder and CFO. And in December last year, we launched together with other companies and our partners, we launched Seed Venture Partners. It's an early-stage venture fund with the amount of $15 million. This is kind of open story when we invite limited partners into our venture fund. And well, yes, for now we have over 10 investments. So during 5 months, and yes, after the war, we proceed to make our investments, and we have raised new money from new LPs.
Yes, hi. My name is Oksana Zabolotna. I am in charge of business and marketing development in company Qubit Labs. I also co-founded Symptomatical startup, and with Eva Kozlovskaya, my partner, we are developing actively Women in Tech Ukraine right now. Yes, I'm staying in Ukraine, and all our most of our back office is staying in Ukraine together with developers. Someone relocated to Western Ukraine. Someone, of course, fled, but we are doing business from Ukraine. So all the contracts we sign, our clients know that it's a Ukrainian company as we advertise. So during the first 3 months, during these 3 months, we managed to sign 5 contracts, 3 of them during March, which was the most difficult month for Ukraine. And then we managed to sign 2 more contracts, and one of them is the client from USA who actually come back to us from after the pause of cooperation. So yeah, I think it shows the opportunities and how Ukrainians can do their work, and just imagine what we can do after we win and how much contracts we will bring to Ukrainian tech ecosystem. I have this for myself, a note for myself to thank to Polish people and to Polish government, because when you here it's different, and when you're in Ukraine you just feel the support, and it's so important to us that I cannot just explain how it is to feel that your back is covered with such neighbors and such good friends. So thanks all of you.
You know, guys, we love to do it as more interactive as possible. So now we will discuss our topics and questions, but we want audience also to participate. And those who will be the most active, we will give special prize from Ukrainian team. This is the symbol of resilience, and the symbol is our iconic T-shirt that actually our guys wearing. So several of them will go to participants. Please don't be shy and ask questions during the panel, and we will be happy to give your presents. And also in the end of the panel, we are asking WorldSummit team to come on the stage, as we have special present for them, and we ask all Ukrainian startups who are present here, and all Ukrainians, even if you are not startup, but expert or an investor or whatever, join us, and we will want to make together a picture of all Ukrainians. So now let's proceed. Maybe, can I ask to turn on video about Audi, because we want to start speaking about Ukrainian products, probably with Apostera. I want world to know that there are many, many, many Ukrainian products which are widely used, but people don't know that they're from Ukraine. For instance, Grammarly, that is used everywhere, so they have Ukrainian co-founders. There are, for instance, Reface, the application that was #1 in Apple Store for 1 year. There are many other, Clean My Market, also developed by Ukraine, and you've seen the guy actually in the video, the founder of MacPow. There are many products that were born in Ukraine, and Ukraine is a home for them, and then they conquer the world. So, can you please put audio video, so it's easier sometimes to watch video and then understand how product works. So, I hope you understood what's happening, or if not, our founder of this startup will explain actually how from idea basically to the Audi, the whole route, how startup was going. So can you tell more what we've just seen, what it was, how it works, and actually your story?
Yeah, actually, this is how the product looks like today, and in the Audi vehicles. And the story started more than I think 10 years ago, actually in Odessa, when we have been working on the different navigation system in the automotive space, and we realized the challenge that all the drivers still experience during the driving journey. And this is connected to the fact that the navigation systems, even if you take Google, Apple, they're not very precise. And usually what you see through the windshield of your car and what you see on the navigation systems are, in most cases, different pictures, right? And at the same time, urban network, especially in Asia as well as North America, are really growing. Therefore, you might have different levels, like 3-4 levels, different roundabouts, exits, etc. And it's really a challenge for us, for the consumers of the vehicles, to navigate. Therefore, we have been thinking how to bring all relevant information for the driver actually in front of the vehicle. And we come up with the idea to use augmented reality, right? But that was kind of the crazy idea 10 years ago that nobody believed in it. And then in 2017, we decided to launch a separate company, startup, Apostera, with co-founders from Kyiv and Odessa. And actually, we believed in this, but, you know, I believe in many startups, nothing possible just from the first day. You have to work very hard to take additional risks, but still believe the idea. And also I would like to thank to the investors. It's a company ICU and the SMRK who believed in us, who believed in the team, who believed in the idea at that time. They invested in the company, and then back in 2018, we finally also convince Audi, right, that Apostera and the team is the right company to make the fiction, right, the reality, and we started this project, right? And this is the only thing we can right now demonstrate to the audience, because we have been working on the other cutting-edge technologies in augmented reality space, but not everything we can visualize right now and to demonstrate because of different NDAs, but this is a fact. This is a car. This is available on the market. I think there are one more car that is similar with a similar system. It's Mercedes-Benz S-Class, but there are no other competitors on the market rather than that. Yeah, and actually, it's it's a startup. That's idea, vision, technology team coming from Ukraine. Ukraine is very well known because of IT services, but like Elena mentioned at the very beginning, we have also many cutting-edge tech startups who are making an impact, not only to the, like your writing, checking, etc., but also in automotive. So, and many cars that you are driving today and driving tomorrow with the tech coming from Ukraine. It's true.
So guys, when driving next time German car, don't forget that there is a Ukrainian product inside. And how did you manage actually to go into German automotive industry, because it's so close, it's traditional, it's already spread, who is there? How did you fight this competition actually? I think it was probably the hardest part of the journey, or no?
You know, each startup, it's all about the team, it's about market fit, about having clients. I don't think that we're unique or different, you know, versus other startups. Yeah, we have been working in the industry, definitely. We had a knowledge of the automotive industry. I have been living in Germany for almost 7 years. Before moving into Munich, I used to work, used to live in the small city close to Stuttgart, Böblingen. Yeah, and I think Munich, it's the center of automotive in Germany for obvious reasons, because there are different, very famous OEMs over there. Yeah, and I think because of the market knowledge, also connections that our team had and have right now in automotive, we managed to knock the door, big names, and convince them, yeah, that's product possible to bring to the reality. Yeah, it's like, you know, mixed reality, bringing to reality. And actually, one additional point, maybe for the audience also to understand. So there are two definitions: augmented reality and the mixed reality. Augmented reality is usually what you can find, for example, in your smartphones using Google Map, right? There is augmented reality. And the mixed reality, or the technologies that we're using, is different. The fundamental difference is that the mixed reality, or in other words, it's true augmented reality when we merge two worlds. The first one is a physical world that all of us as drivers, we see through the windshield. And the second one, the digital world that is coming from the navigation system, etc. So, and we merge those two worlds in a way that the driver have a very precise and detailed information where you go. So in our solution, you don't need to change the focus of your eyes to any navigation system. You really focus what's happening in front of the car. And therefore, at the end of the day, it's not only about conveniences, but we also reduce the car accidents and increase safety, right? So you would not realize yourself in the tunnel suddenly that you need to turn to the left, to the right, to exit from the motorway. With our solution, you know exactly where to go, and we reduce those distractions almost to zero.
And another question. You know, it's very important when we teach startups that there is a point when you have to exit. Everything, like, it's very smart. You exit right, it's sometimes a successful story. And for me, it's the question, how did you know when the right time to exit? You decided not to stay until unicorn or whatever. We know approximately your valuation. Maybe if you can disclose it, maybe not. But we know that you can go bigger and maybe go to NASDAQ, to IPO. Why did you decide to exit at some point?
Actually, I think there are two takeaways, right, from our journey. First of all, we have to understand that, for example, automotive market or automotive industry, when it comes to core automotive industry, meaning if you develop some product in the car, you have to follow very specific and strict regulation when it comes to processes and quality, right? You cannot just develop something for the smartphone and bring it on the website, on the cloud, and bring it to the car. No, it's not possible, because we're talking about safety, we're talking about security and the people's lives at the end of the day. So it means that you have to invest a lot, not only into the team and the processes, and invest in the product itself. So it's really how to say, the investment cycle is very long, right? So you need to have a lot of money on your bank account in order to finance this, right? And actually, yeah, I think, yeah, being Ukrainian startup also a challenge, because there is no as many trusts, let's say, in Europe as, for example, if you're a German startup or any other startups, it's still a challenge. I think after, during the war, this challenge will be kind of omitted, because everybody believes there is a trust in Ukrainians, and the trust what we are doing. Second one, it's if you see a lot of opportunities, right? So we start with one project, but there are many other OEMs and clients who actually start knocking our doors. And again, in order to address all those opportunities, you have to have very strong partner on the market who can really help you to address all those opportunities, right? It's a moment of time when we realize, wow, there are a lot of projects, there is a huge demand of the technology, and definitely to address this demand, we need somebody who is standing next to us and helping us to address all those challenges. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much about us. So yeah, access to the financing as well as support to address all these opportunities. Therefore, we decided, yeah, it's a very good time where we can join Harman, right? Who is actually helping us a lot right now to accelerate with all our, let's say, ideas further.
I think it's a good point speaking about access to finance. You know, it wasn't that easy before the war. Now it's even more tricky question. Really, who would dare to invest during the war? And I want to pass the word to the guy who dares to invest, really, who has this courage. Dmitry, it's your turn to speak. So why do you invest in Ukraine? Why you don't escape? And there are million startups all over the world. You can invest anywhere. Oh.
Yeah, that's correct. But first of all, I'd like to notice that we invest in Ukrainian-founded startups globally, meaning that it's not like the company in Ukraine. Normally, all Ukrainian startups incorporate their businesses outside of Ukraine because it's global startups, and we invest only in global stories. That's why normally it's Delaware or UK-based companies, or even Portuguese-based company, which we have now in portfolio. And the other thing that there is still risk because normally, again, the major part of the team are in Ukraine, and it's what is happening now. And nowadays, after the war, some of them are locked in Ukraine, and this is, of course, matter of risk, of perception of the risk and the management of the risk. Because, as I told you, I'm also a co-founder, a CFO in Sigma Software. We have over 2,000 people. And we know how to relocate people. We know how to force drivers to go back to Kharkiv to pick our people to the western part of Ukraine, even if they don't want to risk. So we did it, and we also have a possibility to make our startups, to help our startups to relocate and to reduce those risks. And what is the really important for us is that at least some of people from the team should have a possibility to go abroad for business development. Sometimes it's impossible to do it only from Ukraine. But what I can tell is that over 50% of our startups, and by now we invested more than 10, are female-driven startups.
Oh, that's good. It probably needs a round of applause, because usually men get all investments.
Yeah, it happens without any specific intention from our side. It's just what we see in the market, and we are proud of those startups. They show great results. So, and that means they have a possibility to make business development abroad. And for other teams, some of the owners already was in the United States or in Canada or in the business trips, so we don't see really big risks now. Of course, they exist, but I think it's manageable.
I probably want to comment on this. Unfortunately, it's really sad to admit that this war doing some favors to females, because it's traditional male industry with 95% of founders males, and now we have this chance to get more investment and become more visible. I hope this will change after the war, and our Ukrainian startup will get investment despite on gender of founder. all over the world, but if female founders who are here, I've seen several of you, please be active and take this chance and be present to show up, to show Ukrainian ecosystem, because that's our job now, to deliver the message that we keep working. Those who are within the country and those who are outside the country, we work for Ukraine, for Ukrainian startup and for future. And I want with this ask Oksana, how actually you feel, because you are a female founder who can go abroad, but you decided to stay within the country and you have a huge team of people who are there and you keep manage them. Can you tell more about your story? How do you see this point of relocation, whether to go, whether to stay, and how you see it from the business management perspective? How do you manage this?
Yeah, we run a clients-oriented business, so we do software development for clients and run their R&Ds. So we are very, very dependent on the risk situations like war, and clients, there is always a chance that they leave for more settled, more safe places. But we had in mind that there are risks. As you may also know and notice that months before 24th of February, all the newspapers, all the media was talking about that. And all our clients were asking, and we felt the panic that were just, you can cut it with a knife, the panic that was in the air in the whole Europe, I guess. And we were prepared for that by communicating our business continuity plans, like what we will do. We know that there is risks. Your team is in Kharkiv or your team is in Kyiv. They will do that. Like you won't lose any stable business processes because they are dependent on us. Like startups, projects, they are dependent. And then when during the first months we were in the constant communication with our clients, our awesome HR management teams, they were simultaneously resettling teams and teams were delivering. And I want to say thanks to our HR. She was in a lot of stress, making sure that all our people and their families are safe. Then I want to say that what helped is our previous experience with quarantine, actually, because Ukrainians are so we already know how to work remote from any place in the world. Like I really don't. There is no difference working from Sri Lanka, Kyiv, or Wroclaw. It's for all. We just take our laptops and we do our work. We deliver and bring results. And then what was a point of big risk is a bank system in Ukraine, like how to get payments and how to pay salaries, because people are dependent on us and clients are dependent on us. And it was a big, it's great that the whole bank system was working as it must all the time. Like we had no issues with payments, even though we had reserved bank accounts prepared for our developers in case they had to change to European banks. But we also communicated that with our clients that don't worry, all your developers, all your teams will get money because they are worried about their people also. It's like they were asking, is it okay? Should we change the legal entity or else? We said, no, we will manage that. We do our work. So yeah, that's the main points which we want to communicate. The bank system, government system in Ukraine is working as it should. It was like before the war. And it's very important that we manage that, and money in business, they are working.
So I would add here, so probably all Ukrainians who are spread now all over the world, they already live in metaverse, because half of the day probably we spent in Zoom speaking with our teams who are everywhere, And we even don't care whether there are someone in Portugal, in Denmark, in the United States, but we keep working and developing the same product that we actually were doing before the war. And it's incredible how resilient it is. Of course, it's huge mental and psychological and emotional challenge to us, but basically I think we all of us learn to be together, being on such huge distances. And speaking on behalf of Accelerator, as I run Accelerator in Ukraine, and we have about 3,000 early stage startups, and we accelerated ourselves about 50 startups. I should point that we know all the statistics, and actually about 70% of startups, they totally resumed their work, and they worked at the same as before the war. Of course, some of the startups, they are strong men founders, and they decided themselves, they accepted it, they joined military forces, and they decided to protect the country. Those startups are actually now on hold. We have several startups like this. They are great, and they are founded by MBA holders from United States and from other universities, so it's incredibly smart people who are joining army just to protect the country. And other startups also decided to participate in the war, but they participate in not in physical, in military, but in IT army, which is also incredible thing, and it's like a special phenomenon of this war. So maybe some of you can describe it more, what is IT army of Ukraine, guys?
Yeah, I can tell about that. That's a really awesome thing that is happening right now. Besides the physical war that is happening, like destroying rockets, all that stuff, there is cyber war going on. And from the first, how I knew about that is happening and that there is an IT army forming in Ukraine. My friend, she was during the first day, she was like, we have to do something. Like, I cannot just sit here watching all that things going on. We have to do something. But what can I do? I'm a marketologist. I'm a business person. And she's like, we can do advertisement to show the world what's going really on. Because Russia, they are fighting us not only with rockets, they are fighting us with propaganda, and they are fighting with whole world with this propaganda and myths. And our main aim was to show what's really going on in Ukraine, not to fall in the same trap as we did for previous years, not showing what's really going on, like going with the flow of Russian news and Russian propaganda. And so then, starting from the first day, it's a whole, it's totally volunteering and self-organized movement of IT army. It includes creative people, marketologists, advertisement professionals, cybersecurity professionals, developers, and each person is working in its own field where they worked for years before. So just imagine like 20 best marketing agencies rallied up together and joined each other to work on the same project of showing the reality and showing the truth to the world. And also the IT army is fighting cyber attacks that are happening the whole time. So basically we are now experiencing the first cyber war that is happening in the world, and we are in the middle of it in media, in Facebook, and in the whole web. When you use it, you can be influenced by it. And IT army is fighting on behalf of every European person to show the truth.
Guys, I want to point that there is a microphone somewhere here. So please, we are ready to accept any questions from the audience. Please don't be shy to participate because we wanted to give presents. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to add a few words. You know, startups, war, Ukraine, how all those things connected, and also investments. You know, from my experience in the startup area and dealing with different VC funds. So VC funds always, you know, were talking about teams, right? Because, you know, you might have some ideas, startups, but the market might be changed, right? And new ideas might appear. And the ability of the startup team to address those challenges almost in no time and realize new opportunities, it's very, very important to each and every investor, right, in each and any VC funds. So when the COVID started, right, many VC funds were, okay, this is a stress test to our, portfolio of startups, and we will see who will survive, who can be working in a new reality, right? This is how we call it that time when the COVID started. Then the COVID more or less ended, and we have, the war in the center of Europe. And actually, I think today the startups, specifically startups in Ukraine, who managed to address the new challenge that, nobody could even imagine, and who could and can actually change the behavior and address this challenge, is yet another stress testing of all the ecosystem of the startups in Ukraine. And the ones who really knows how to survive and actually deliver value to the clients during the COVID and during the war are the ones who should be ultimate goal for the investors all over the world to invest. Because this is a stress testing of the startups that nobody other startups in the world can say, we know how to deliver during the war. Who can tell that except of Ukrainian startups? So this is definitely the stress test, and this is the point where VC funds starting from Silicon Valley and here in Poland have definitely to consider those startups, because if they survive during the COVID, during the war, definitely they will address all possible challenges in the world, right, in the future.
We even know that new startups appeared during the war, and new business model appeared during the war. Can you please elaborate more on this?
There is this thought that this time it can be productive in terms of the biggest technological breakthroughs are happening when there is a big crisis. And people start to adjust and they start looking for new opportunities. And of course, in Ukraine, there are some startups that pivoted their technologies to suit this new reality. They're our new normal. So there's cybersecurity, of course. There is electric vehicles that Ukrainian army is using now to do their job. And also there is this terrain scanning and recognition drones that help us scan the terrain and see the damage and all that stuff. And I'm sure that all these new technologies can be used for building better future. Like we can pivot from depending on the gasoline to electric vehicles, for example. It might be a big breakthrough after a crisis for the whole world.
No, I think all of us learn how to pivot it. We pivoted our businesses, our startups, and many of us pivoted our life. And we know we have even this, it's about all of us, every business. And we have also this startup here in the room who pivoted their Deus robots, you're here. They pivoted their startups basically from logistics robots to robots that will help deliver and take away your minds. So basically, it's better to sacrifice robots, right, than human life working with minds. So basically, we are showing how this war gives some impact on us, and we adjusting. And what else I would add? Speaking about the war, I think also Ukraine now can be called first blockchain nation. In which way that it's so decentralized. Why Russia cannot defeat us so easily? Because its Russian army tries to work with not only Ukrainian army, but with the whole people, the whole nation. Basically, all Ukrainians who are within country or abroad, they participate in this war somehow. Some of them participate physically, some of them participate just pivoting their businesses, some of them participate given their intellectual capacity and mental capacity, how to defeat. Some of them dedicated to informational war. So basically, Russia's now fighting not with only army, with 200,000 people in the east and south, but with the whole population of Ukraine, this is 40 million of us, and that's why we believe we will do our job and kick some asses away from our country. And I want to take some questions from the room, if there are any. Just don't be afraid to show your hand, because it's huge light here. Oh, great, we have someone.
Hi, thank you so much. Well, I have such a question, like, in my mind, everyone in the world now should be like wanting to hire Ukrainians or invest in Ukrainians. Why? Because after the world, Ukrainians will be so popular, then such possibilities won't be easily available. So I think everyone should be doing it now. But what are your thoughts? Your partners, your clients, what they think about it? Thank you.
Maybe all of us can answer this question. Like, my observation is that many people are afraid. They're just scared to death. Western Europe funds, they escape, and like those people who already have some positive experience with Ukraine, they keep investing despite everything. But those who had never experienced it, they're really scared by nature. That's why actually I want to hear the opinion of Dmitry, because he is one who keeps investing in Ukrainian business even now. So how you see it?
Yeah, I can tell my experience. I don't know if it's how it happens everywhere, but our venture fund is quite new, and before the war, we were raising money from investors, limited partners, and we had some kind of verbal commitment to invest in our fund some amounts. And then with those verbal commitments, of course, we are searching for startups and making our own commitments to invest into those startups. And after the war, well, you know, verbal commitment, it's not even signed papers. And if even it would be signed papers, it doesn't mean that those people, and most of them were from Ukraine IT industry, but I would even understand if someone from abroad will not transfer the money after the war started. And after a certain period of time, like 3 weeks, when we settled some things and reallocated people and started to make our news regarding each startups, how it feels, what happened, what are the losses, and what are the maybe upsides of the situation for someone. And then we found that every investor who had a previous commitment signed the documents and already sent us the money. And what was more interesting is that 2 more Swedish funds, investment funds from Sweden, also joined us with quite a big amounts of investments. That's why we had the possibility to again fund our previous commitments and get new. So I don't know whether it's about Ukraine, but definitely it's about the fact that Ukraine doesn't survive. Ukraine survive, and well, it's hopefully, yeah, in the future we'll see more investments into Ukraine.
I think, you know, events like this one is the one who's actually have to answer on your question as well, right? So we are here because we want to show to the world that, you know, each and every investment definitely is a risk. But today, yeah, I think it's really good time, I would say, yeah, a window of opportunity to invest specifically in Ukraine startups, right? To the people who knows how to change the business, change the life overnight, and to be united and actually fight not only against enemies, but also against the business challenges, and successfully actually fight against those challenges. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course, we need actually, as a Ukrainian community, more and more success stories on the startup ecosystem. Yeah, like our company, and I believe there will be more and more product startups companies who will be very famous, with the products who's actually gonna to change some industries forever.
I will say on behalf of hiring people from Ukraine, trying to relocate them. Ukraine is very interesting location for hiring people, but not relocating them there, but hiring in Ukraine and working through Ukrainian company like ours, like Qubit Labs or like Sigma, because you save some costs. All startups want to be cost effective, and then there is a way, because when you relocate a person, you pay higher taxes, and Ukraine is a very beneficial location for creating your R&Ds. And I hope that it will stay like that in future, and we will bring more clients, we will bring more projects, more companies will turn to developing their own products, like developing startups, so we will be more technological in that case. But it's just to say that Ukraine takes 2 days to set up your private entrepreneur company, and then the taxes are very low. So if you are looking for the location to develop your startup, it can be Ukraine, definitely, even right now, because as you see on our own experience, it's possible, and everything is working, and it will be working, I'm sure.
And to continue your comment that we have Dear City, also the co-author of the law of Dear City is here. And actually this is a special zone that creates like less taxes, and you can do investments on English law, which simplifies everything.
I also have one more comment about that. Some people who wanted to emigrate, to relocate earlier, they want to come back desperately. I mean, this is the real life examples when a person was choosing the European country for relocation, and now they're like, I want to go back, I want to build something in Ukraine, I want to keep my business in Ukraine, and this war, it opened in Ukraine, and in Ukrainians such new strength and something new that we never knew that it's in us, I think. And so it will be very hard to hire Ukrainians and relocate them to other countries. It's better to come to Ukraine and hire there and bring business back to our country.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of our people from IT now aware of different tax regimes all over the Europe, and they became surprised. Well, it's higher taxes, yeah. But still, what we are now discussing with the Ministry of Digital transformation is that we need to work how to keep, at least for now, the tax residence for Ukrainian people in Ukraine. But some tax regimes in countries like Portugal, for example, they allow to pay taxes and use double treaty taxation to reduce or not to pay at all taxes, for example, in Portugal. So we are now working on different tax regimes in different countries. Yeah.
So as a summary, answering on your question, right? So today we have many Ukrainian startups here on the summit. So please invest. Fantastic opportunity, no doubt. Ukrainian startups definitely will win.
Ukrainian founder knows what he tells. And just comment for VCs. What I found it in Europe that people don't differentiate that much between private equity PE transactions and VC. Private equity transaction, yes, it's a bit scary that missiles can hit your plant or can fit your factory. But a digital product and software cannot be destroyed that easy. You can keep investing in software because everything in servers somewhere in Google, Amazon, Microsoft, whatever. So all digital products, they are alive and they keep working and nothing can happen with them. And you know, this war in a bit hilarious because Russians think that they can destroy the country. It's so easy, but it's not because we have digital economy which already is quite huge. And it's keep growing, and I hope it will. Yes, Oksana.
I even have, even though I have my passport with myself, it could be that it could burn or something else. But I have all my documents here in my phone, and they are valid, and I can use them to, like as a real passport. So Ukraine is such a digitalized nation now that first of all my documents are with me in my phone and they are valid for Ukrainian government. And for example, we with Yelena, we can just I just can send her money in 2 seconds without knowing her bank account. So we're so used to these technologies that we don't even think about how digitalized we are until we start thinking about that, I guess.
Until we appeared in Europe. Actually, you know, we're signing now documents by having these moves. I sign in all documents with face recognition through DIA Summit and through DIA application. And it basically helps do it from United States or somewhere to sign everything just to put in my face in my smartphone, then it recognizes me. Any else questions? Can I show? Can you please? Yes, please. Can someone moderate the questions because I cannot see of the lights?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Good.
perfect.
Thank you for this very interesting discussion. My question would be, I know it's hard to predict the future, but where do you see the startup ecosystem, or where do you want to see it in the rebuilding of Ukraine?
Actually, my wish, right? So companies like Sequoia Capital and other big names coming to Ukraine establish offices and they will invest in Ukrainian startups. This is my wish.
I just add, you know, actually Sequoia Capital is in Ukraine and Andreessen Horowitz, but they not physically have office, but they already invested in Ukrainian startups. So Ukrainian ecosystem is quite famous somehow in the United States, more famous than in Europe, because Ukrainian startups, they just sometimes keep the localization through the Europe and go directly to the United States. So we have plenty of American funds who already invested in later stages of Ukrainian startups. But now, as we have first offices of Starlink and Facebook open office, and who else?
Yeah, of course, the later stage, everybody can invest, but you have to have like certain not risk avoidance, risk-taking strategy that you really need to support startups on the early stage. This is where startups definitely need the support, right? Like CEO of Revolut, right? I believe, right? He also mentioned this, and therefore he established his own fund. But there's the classical VC funds, they invest on the later stage, when usually you have a lot of clients already, you don't need to find any longer the market fit. So yeah, but you really need VC funds to invest on the super early stage, just to see the team, see the idea, say, wow, this is gonna be yet another unicorn. I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to invest. This is what startups need.
And if the venture fund will not understand it, then seed venture partners will invest in all Ukrainian startups and they will have then benefits.
That's exactly what we are doing. We are just interviewing the team and a little bit of technology, because all our general partners are C-level managers in IT companies, and everyone understands the technology, and what is the most important is the team. And what we saw in Ukraine, a lot of teams were raising money and appearing in the market, and unfortunately, I think we will have like a delay of that growth, because it was very important that it was a lot of incubators, conferences, events, everything what is
happened in Kiev was very important for this new startups infrastructure. And now we have, of course, still some or maybe a lot of new startups, but I think, again, it's very important to rebuild and restart this process again as soon as possible.
So we will, as soon as it's safe, we will try to bring you all guys there to Kiev. I hope you will be...
But I think in general, if you compare, for example, United States market of investment in Europe, definitely United States market is more like risk-taken versus Europe. The Europe is more avoid the risk or to have, like you just mentioned, to invest on the company on the early stage. So in principle, I think it's not only about Ukraine, but Poland, Germany, Holland, yeah, maybe UK, they're different, right? But yeah, we as a startups, we really need more VC funds who really wanted to take the risks, right, and believe into ideas. Because, you know, usually you have to develop this all Excel sheets, etc., on the early stage. Yeah, you can put thousands of assumptions and develop any kind of the business case, any kind of Excel to justify it. But you really need to understand what startup is doing, like an idea. And again, the team. Team is very important because, like I said, so looking for the market fit, usually there are no, at least I don't know, the startups who, you know, invented one idea and they exit with this idea. Usually the idea is being changed as we speak, right? We started with something, then we realize the market is different, we address this market, and it's really, you know, journey. And the team, the founding team, the core team really need to understand how to address those changes. Again, so the idea that came to your mind today doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be not changed tomorrow. You really need to know, to understand how to address this. And this is what VC funds really in Europe have to looking for, right? Okay, there is a fantastic team, there is an idea, I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to invent this company. In Poland, in Ukraine, in Europe, right? This, I think, very important to Europe ecosystem in general.
Yeah, I completely agree, and this is why our fund was focusing on Ukrainian startups, because being more than 20 years in IT business in Ukraine, we were familiar how the teams should behave. We hired thousands of people. We know how to make interviews and we understand our mentality. This is why our fund was focusing in Ukraine, because when you're talking with US startup, you don't feel the mentality. You can miss some details in behavior or whatever. But if you are from Ukraine, you feel it much more fluently.
Next question. Who wants to ask?
My name is Pushpak. Recently moved to Wrocław, and I come from the investments industry. First of all, thank you very much. To put things in context, I have been to Ukraine over the last 10 years, few times, so I appreciate the changes and the talent pool which has been available. My question today, having raised some of the important points, such as risk-taking at the seed stage, the appetite. I'm glad you brought out the distinctions between US and Europe. In my experience in Europe, and this is a first-hand experience, and I've been fortunate enough to have lived across the world, I was surprised that if you look at the behavior of entrepreneurs from poorer countries, and you look at the behavior of so-called entrepreneurs from a wealthier nations which have significant subsidies, their understanding of risk-taking is completely different. When I was mentoring startups in Germany, there were people who were moving from grant to grant with no conviction in their own startup. So what I appreciate the fact that what you highlighted, that today what Ukraine is going through, which is the disruption and the resilience Ukrainians have built and the national pride you have raised, that's an amazing transformation of mental resilience. The point is brain drain. As a nation, how would you keep your talent where there is a shortage of talent, there is a tug of war for talent all over the world for digital expertise? How would Ukraine keep the people behind to help the country? And how would you attract them back to Ukraine? Thank you.
So maybe I'll start and my colleagues will answer. So first of all, we want our people to be safe. It's maybe the most important. We want our people to be alive, so we are happy that they are accepted somewhere else, in Poland, in Europe, and this is first need. And you know, we work in digital sphere, in the digital products, and it means that physical presence, it doesn't mean that much. We need founders of our startups to be available to travel, because we need to raise financing and to be present and to make business development. But usually, and it was before war, and maybe it will be later, many of our R&D offices are there. So we will see if we will be able to create such economic conditions that we will win not only physical war, but also economic war. I mean, and be economically resilient. It's our next goal and our step for us as a nation and for our government, how we can do this. But again, for me, for instance, my opinion, it's not that crucial to be physically there if we can deliver digital products and if some revenue streams can go to Ukraine to support Ukraine. After the war, the world will be totally different. Europe will change, United States will change, perceptions will change, because it's such unfair and unprovoking war and such aggression that the world haven't seen for ages, you know. And many things will be perceived differently. If we will manage to win this war, Ukraine will have this place on a map and will be popular. That's why now it's not a task to be afraid of brain drain. You know, people should be safe and they should keep working and we should give them these conditions. But later, it will be their choice. Ukraine is a free country, you know, we are free by spirit as free nation. And if they will be their calling of their heart to come back home, then it is they can work there. If they will decide that they fit better in your ecosystem, it's also the decision. They still create great products for the world.
Comment from my side. Yes, I think you're absolutely right concerning the risk-taking nation and the economic maturity of the countries. You're absolutely right. I agree with you, right? So the economies, I mean, the countries with less developed economies and the founders from those countries, they more intend to take the risk because, you know, living in Ukraine or countries like Ukraine, you know, it's also a lot of risk, right? Versus you mentioned Germany, right? So everything is stable for the ages. Yeah, and I think this is also one of the very important factor when it comes to Ukraine and the startups, because risk-taking, it's about startups. So all startups about risk-taking, because we think something unbelievable. Like I said, so our idea 10 years ago, everybody around said it's impossible. So what you have been dreaming, it's impossible. And actually, when a lot of, you know, the people around the founder says it's impossible, that's definitely the right way to start the startup, because this is what startups are doing. They're making impossible possible, risk-takings, right? And then another, what Ukraine can do after the war, I think, yeah, at least what I wish to believe, that there are going to be a lot of investment, right, in the Ukraine from the different organizations all over the world. Yeah, because we are going to build the country like South Korea, right, in terms of economy, in terms of technology, in terms of companies, etc., etc., and definitely many young and motivated people would like to come back and help the country, the motherland, to become the very big and successful player in the Europe. Yeah.
Guys, any more questions? I cannot see her, just please. Yeah, is there any questions? Otherwise, we will listen to the music. Yes.
Hello, my name is Irina. I represent Deus Robus. Actually, we say that about Impossible, yes, really, we were looking for funds in Ukraine to build in Ukraine factory for robotic. And actually, before the war, we go our investments. Unfortunately, for now, it's frozen, but we believe that anyway we will just change our investor because we have very high level product, and actually we have contracts and everything. What I want to ask you, for now, for example, for our company, it's really very difficult because we're not software, we're hardware. We are a robotic company and we build a factory which is on the land in place where it's can happen everything. So can you suggest us as fund what we should do to fundraise to Ukraine? Because we have too much opportunity now to go to USA with our team, with our product. We can go to Poland, and actually too much investors wait us here, but we love our country. And actually, if it would be any chance to stay in Ukraine, we stay in Ukraine.
But again, you know, the difference to sell the product and to have the R&D team in Ukraine, I think, is two different things, right? You would like to still to have, and like our company, we also have teams in Ukraine, right? And we have IP in Ukraine.
We team of Ukraine, we have company in Ukraine,
Okay.
We sell our product, we robotized Nova Poshta, you know what this company, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to say that the team is in Ukraine. You develop hardware related to logistics, super fantastic.
Yes.
But why you kind of omit having clients here in Poland or in Europe? I mean, still, your IP is being developed in Ukraine. That's no problem at all.
The problem is another way. We should to build factory this year. To the end of the year, we should to build the factory because we have clients and we need to make our contracts. But we cannot because we should to buy equipment, for example, from Europe and bring here. And European companies, they don't bring their staff to implement even this equipment to Kyiv, for example.
I think it's a better way to approach to investment bankers. They exist in Ukraine and they could help you to find the right investor. But I hope your land or your factory is in the safe place, because otherwise it will be hard to
Yes,
get.
that's why the question is for hardware startups. How you see, is it possible in Ukraine now under war to make this business? What do you think? What you will do if, for example, you have factory in Kyiv?
Well, we are not investing in hardware, even if it was no war. But I don't know. Again, it's better to start this process now with the investment bankers, and probably when the war will be over, you will have those investments.
No, banking, it's not that sphere. We, yes, we have in contract more than millions of dollars,
I mean, it's not banking. It's not banking.
No.
It's guys who are searching for the investments.
Investment banking, да.
Yeah, they just call like bankers. They are not bankers. They are like real estate agents.
You know, maybe you should make a pivot. You know, you had strategy based Ukraine, then Poland, and then United States. Now make it Poland first, your base, and then
United
you
States,
will
then
see.
Ukraine.
Yes, and then come back to Ukraine. Like sometimes people do this. So, and maybe at that time it will be just great plan.
You know, you're a startup, right? Meaning that
can
you're
do
so
whatever.
agile. So just change your strategy, and that's it. So I do understand you had a strategy in the past, but the situation is different. So keep the IP in Ukraine, develop the hardware, take the spare parts out of Europe, build the product, and sell this product from Ukraine to Poland or to Holland, where logistics is really booming. So your product is very important right now, but the place is. Yeah, it's different. It's challenging.
You definitely
for now,
have
at least.
some ways to succeed, and we're sure. And the most important is that you keep working, and your team keep working. That's the most important. And build your plant where you see the best now.
Yes, we have, but it's not only question about me. We have too much, plenty of teams. I mean, is this artificial intelligence? But they are tech startups. Even for now, I know several teams which are now making robotic to avoid mine and whatever, and they need investments. But
Irina,
this is
maybe
not
we can
solved.
discuss your question later on, because either we can take one more question from the audience and like a special case, or maybe we can invite the team of Wolf Summit. Why I want to invite them to the stage? Because they promised, and they actually promised that they will make the next event, or maybe when it's safe, in Kiev. And we see that our mission is bring as much people as possible to Ukraine and to Kiev. And now we want to appreciate their efforts on doing those events. You know, usually they do events for startups, and all startups get something. Yes, they have some prizes from jury and so on. But when you organize events, and you know, I am in this business as well in Ukraine, I'm doing events for startups, conference, and no one sees your efforts. But now we want to really appreciate what the people do for us. So maybe we can raise the presence.
Elena, you know, it's already kind of the tendency, right? So, Elena.
Yes.
Do you hear me? I'm trying to say there is already a tendency, right? So Eurovision is coming to Ukraine, then Wolf Summit is coming to Ukraine, so more and more companies and the things are coming to Ukraine, right?
So maybe we will start with Martin Rin, who is the founder of Wolf Summit, and Mike Schaffer. We want to give you presents. Thank you for making this event. Thank you for hosting Ukrainian startups. Just check what is there, Mike.
Okay.
You please.
Okay, so thank you very much, Elena. Thank you, Alex, and for the great panelists and in the crowd. So the story, our collaboration started, first of all, in Warsaw, wasn't it? We held a brief marketing event a few months ago, just before Alpha Wolves, and Alex, Elena, and a number of colleagues were there. We had made a great introduction together, and then we agreed that, okay, let's do something together for Alpha Wolves. So during Alpha Wolves, Elena delivered a fantastic presentation, which was, went down resoundingly well with the audience. Following that, we went to Prague together. So Elena and Alex and their wonderful children, and your sister, was it? Yeah. And Elena's sister came to Prague with us. We did some sightseeing. We held another brief marketing event at a hub venue in Prague. And then it brings us nicely to this event now, Wolf Summit 2022, where as you can see, we're displaying our most extensive agenda topics towards the Ukrainian ecosystem. So thank you very much, guys. It's been truly been a pleasure.
Thank you. Present from Mike.
Yeah.
You can show.
Thanks,
so we are basically giving them this iconic T-shirts, yes, and some drinks from Ukraine. Please, yes, please, Alexander, can you pass the presents to the girls, to the ladies? Yes, pass. Don't. So to Thomas, Sash, so you guys can think. And now we want also to invite all Ukrainians who are here in their audience, in the room, and make a picture of Ukrainian track. Please, everyone, join us. We will be happy to see you here. So maybe you can I put you somehow in nice manner? You can choose. You have black and white. It depends. So can we have, wow, Who is here? Please join the stage. We want to show the world how
so
many of us
people.
here.
Amazing. Wow, come and join. If you can see anyone on the way who's Ukrainian, just shout Ukraine or, Russian
can even
worship
put
and
it
just
to
make
your
them come
video.
here.
Yes, please, we've done it. Who will make picture? Do we have photographer here? Let me.
Do we have them? Yes, look.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was indeed incredible. Probably one of the favorite moments for everyone here, everyone, and just make sure you're taking the photos. And guys, for everyone else, we have a lunch break right now, so make sure you go and grab some snacks. But make sure to come back. Ooh, that was very dramatic. But make sure to come back at 2 p.m., actually maybe a bit later, for the GPC contest with Rosie. And we have a very huge mass here. So I'm going to be waiting for you here to introduce you to Rosie in 1 hour. Have a good time and have a break. Bye-bye.
When the truth is found to be lies, I know the joy within you dies. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. You want somebody to love?
This is our world. We must do better for a healthier world and a greener planet. That's why, here in Singapore, business is not just business. It is a force for good.
One of the biggest challenges as a startup, even as you start amassing great clients, is building trust and brand recognition. So working with a company like Microsoft gives incredible credibility out of the get-go. It definitely helps open doors. Microsoft does an unexplainably good job of connecting startups with these opportunities. It's been really powerful on the new business front in terms of scaling your startup and connecting to key resources.
This is our world. We must do better for a healthier world and a greener planet. That's why, here in Singapore, business is not just business. It is a force for good.
One of the biggest challenges as a startup, even as you start amassing great clients, is building trust and brand recognition. So working with a company like Microsoft gives incredible credibility out of the get-go. It definitely helps open doors. Microsoft does an unexplainably good job of connecting startups with these opportunities. It's been really powerful on the new business front in terms of scaling your startup and connecting to key resources.